It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Boom! Yo, man. Boom is Rusty. Welcome. Show number 2 of 3 today on Wednesday, the 24th. I thought it was the 23rd today. I think it said the 23rd, maybe it said 24th on the last podcast. Got a cup of coffee in me. I can talk a little faster. And thank you everyone for being here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network. This show brought to you by Stoner Eats Productions, brought to you by Hypnosis is Great, brought to you by a Hardcore Comedy, brought to you by Fred Ben Savage as Fuck and suckemup.org. So I think there's 5. So I got to remember that. If I get 5, I'm on it right. Those are our sponsors. So thank you everyone for being here and listening. And I'm going to bring on my special guest because it's time to. And I'm going to bring her on right here, right now. We have Megan Nolan. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Great to be here. How are you today?
Man, I am doing great. It's a fun day. I got some people that are going in and out of my place right now, working on some stuff. So it's nice being up here and not having to I just let them come and go as they please because they got to work. So I don't like getting in their way. If I was the person doing that, I'd be pretty happy if someone said, here, just go do this. But a lot of people like to go and I don't know. They like to watch people work. It becomes a thing. But I don't do that kind of work really much anymore. So I don't have to worry about it so much. But how are things in which island are you on?
Maui.
You're
Things
on
are
Maui.
great so far. I
Oh.
mean, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, so I can't give you a full update on the day yet, but so far so good.
Thank you for being able to do this early and getting up for that. And so you're on Maui. Not a bad deal. How long you been over there?
I've been on Maui for 12 years now.
12 years. Not a bad deal. What's it like when you come back over to the mainland?
It's intense. It's intense. All the traffic and the people and it's just such a different energy of the city, hustle, go, go, go vibe. I mean, there is that to a degree here, very, few and far between, and especially on Oahu and in Honolulu, but it's interesting. It's a nice contrast. It makes me realize how much I love it out here.
And I don't know, like, are you going to stay there for as long as you can? Is that the plan?
Well, as it
Uh-oh.
is with everywhere, the price of living has gone up significantly, as well as the housing costs. And so, the average house is about $1 million. So it's kind of prohibitive in being able to purchase a house and not be a lifelong renter, which is totally fine. I mean, I've been renting for however long now, but yeah, I think maybe down the road it might require maybe a split time situation. We'll see.
Would that split time bring you back to the mainland, or would that keep you going, or maybe go somewhere else?
Probably international. Yeah.
Stay the island life.
To a degree, yeah. I like the slower paced life, and so we're looking maybe somewhere like Spain or Portugal.
Oh, okay. That sounds pretty all right over there.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. What got you to one day just say, I want to go move to Maui? I mean, I understand the appeal of Maui and how hard it is to leave there when you go there, even as just a resident, not a resident, as a tourist. It's hard to leave. So what did you go there one time and just say, I'm not gonna come back, or I'm gonna grab my stuff and turn around and come back here, or was it something else?
Well, I'm originally from Canada and was born in the US. And so I tried to get warmer and warmer in Canada, but it's not really possible. I kept moving more and more west and realized, the West Coast is beautiful, but it's super gray and it wasn't for me. I felt like Eeyore. And so I figured, why don't I move to somewhere where it's perpetually beautifully sunny and warm? And so after I graduated from university, I moved to the Big Island. So the Big Island of Hawaii, to be at a yoga center, at a wellness center.
Oh,
And it was amazing for a couple of years, but it just didn't feel right to me. And so the islands are all similar, of course, but they're sort of, I would equate it to sisters in the same family. They're
yeah.
similar, but they're rather different. And so
Which
each of the,
which
sorry?
part of the island were you on the Big Island? Because there's well, at least two very different experiences of the Big Island. On the East Coast, it is very wet all the time, and a lot like living on the, in the Northwest or whatever. Whereas, yeah, the West Coast over by Kona is a lot more sun and everything. Where did you end up? Is the Hilo side, the east side, with the volcano that went off? Not, I don't know, 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
And recently, just a few months ago, each of the
Oh,
islands is like that because of the way that the rain falls. And so each side on the east side is rather wet and green and lush. And so I lived on both sides. So I lived in Pahoa, which is outside of Hilo, and that's really beautiful. But it again is, as you said, is very lush and jungly. And so it's can get really damp and a little bit moldy because it's so, just
yep.
constantly rain and constantly getting that moisture. And so I started there and then I moved over to Kona, and Kona's great, but it's, again, as you said, it's really hot and dry. So it's you got to figure out what works for you. I'd rather be warm and dry than, kind of getting rained on all the time, but it's challenging. So yeah, it was an experience. And so I decided to move back to Canada and move to the West Coast. And so to Vancouver Island, and so beautiful, as you
Oh,
said, the Pacific Northwest, really lovely. But again, it's that sort of gray rain cloud that tends to hang over that area. And so, yeah, after a couple years of that, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back, but I'm going to try a different island. And a friend of mine in the meantime had moved over to Maui and opened a yoga studio as well as a tattoo studio. And so she was needing help. So I said, hey, can I come work for you? And that was the beginning of the journey.
which part of the island are you now on Maui?
I currently live in Wai'ehu, which is outside of Kahului, which is where the main airport is. So it's sort of northeast, so kind of on the
Okay,
top left side.
yeah, not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all. And so, yeah, I mean, that has to change a lot of stuff about your life just right off the bat. And how much of that would you say is a factor of how your life is today? Like what percentage of where your life is because of where you live? Does that
I'd
make
say that
sense?
I'd say that situationally, always your environment has an influence on you, because if you're not happy where you are, it definitely affects your mental and emotional state. And so I'd say for me, that was pretty significant, because when I was in a more rainy, wet space, I felt like that emotionally. I felt really kind of, drained and exhausted and just not happy, not vibrant, not bright. And so for me, I feel like it's affected me a lot internally and then physically, because it makes you want to go outside and enjoy the beauty and go, for walks, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'd say it's a pretty significant impact.
And not just 2 to 3 months out of the year. You get to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
That was hard. I lived in that way too long, and I was in Portland for like over 30 years, and I didn't realize. I'm like, oh, this place is beautiful, but then it's beautiful 2 3 months out of the year. The rest of the time it's just like you're Eeyore, and you're around the hundreds of thousands of other Eeyores, and
Right.
it's not good for anybody. And so, I mean, I moved to Minnesota, and I was happy to be there. Cold, negative 30, 40, but there's sunshine, and I can deal with that. I was totally happy. I was freezing, but you have that sun on you, it does something for you. There's something nice to it, and reason why people gravitate towards the sun, and why sun god is such a prevalent thing in so many different cultures and civilizations throughout the time of however. And yeah, I mean, just being by sun is just a huge change. So, and then so you went over and you were wanting to do work at a yoga studio and tattoo. And so I see you have some ink on your arm. It looks like a possible sleeve plus a little extra. So was that from there, or was that from a different place?
No, that was from there. Yeah, my joke is I only have 5. I
Yeah.
have my whole back is done, my arm is done, and then I have a couple smaller ones. But yes, that's the side effect of having a best friend who's a very talented tattoo artist who wants to give you wearable art. So yeah, that's what happened.
That's not a bad idea. And so was she into yoga then?
Yes, it was her yoga studio.
So is
So that
her
we bonded
yoga,
on a lot of those fronts for sure. And still do.
so is it yoga / tattoo studio?
No, they were separate.
Okay, they were separate. So okay, so how much of a crossover was there? How often was somebody in getting a tattoo that you go, hey, I have this yoga studio, or someone in a yoga studio, they see your arms or your back, they go, hey, where'd you get that ink done? Well, I have this place I go to. Was there any of that going on?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of crossover between those two worlds.
And so did you ever get to come up with any deals or anything, or get into any cross promotions of the sorts of being able to like go to, like, sign up for 1 full year of yoga, get a small $50, $100 tattoo or something, or that didn't quite make it?
Yeah, we didn't do anything like that just because of the investment that's required in a tattoo. It really depends on the size and the depth of it. So we didn't.
So over there, was she doing any of uh the different kinds of, with more like the local style of tattoos over there, or is she all with the needle and the machine, or how is she doing those?
She does both. The tatau is the tapping that you're referring to. So
That's right.
this
That's the
little
word.
bit here is tatau. And so she does that some, but it's a very long process because it's just one little tap at a time. So she does do a lot of Polynesian influenced style tattoos. So she has a shop up in Alaska as well. And so it's called Exotic Eye Tattoo. So there's, using the different influences for sure. But yeah, mostly traditionally with machines.
So what are you getting to do on a given day? Like, if, let's say it's today's what, Wednesday? What's a Thursday look like in your life?
Well, typically on Thursdays, I have a session with a client who's on the East Coast. And so we do a virtual yoga and personal training session. And then I head over to some clients here locally on Maui and head over to their home. And so we again do personal training with yoga and help them to have that regular movement in their life. And so that's my typical Thursday. And then in between all of that, listening to some podcasts, learning some things on the road while I'm driving over there. And then, of course, the ongoing fun of social media and keeping things rolling with all of that. Yes. And right now, also for my Thursday tomorrow is the ongoing birthing process of my first book. So that's very exciting. So as maybe anybody that's listening or watching knows, there's a lot involved in that. And so a lot of that has to do with getting things rolling and then just letting them happen.
So how many times have you gone back and forth with the editor and the publisher? What part of going back and forth 10, 15 times are you? Are you in the editing or the publishing part right now?
Thankfully, we have passed the juncture of the editing back and forth, but we are now in the publishing chapter back and forth.
It seems to be
It's funny when
never-ending.
you see a book, you think like, oh yeah, you write a book, you put it on Amazon, people can order it, and false.
Yeah, not quite. Not quite.
Not
There's a
quite.
lot that goes into that.
OMG, is there ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, okay, well, let's get into your writing. So, when you're writing, did you come up with your idea for your book? I'm trying not to hit on the same questions that everyone else can ask you about a book. Was it all like just write as you go, or was there an outline and then you fill in the blanks? What was your kind of process with that?
My book was initially inspired by a coach who suggested that if we have a program that we can write a book about, then that should be our starting point. So my outline was essentially mapped out for me through a program that I had already created, an online program called Wake the Warrior Within, that takes people on a journey into the yoga practice to awaken their own inner strength and resilience. And so that was already laid out. That had been downloaded into my head years ago and then released into the world at the beginning of the pandemic. And so that was my starting point. And what I did was take 7 of the qualities that we activate in the yoga practice and expand upon them and create them into the book. So the book is called The Warrior's Journey. So it looks at the journey of entrepreneurship through the lens of a warrior. So in the yoga practice, we have 3 poses, the warrior poses, and there's variations for sure, but there's 3 poses that helped us to activate the energy of determination and focus and clarity and living your life as though you're charging forward on your soul's mission. And so that's the essence of those poses. And I have come to realize, and anyone that's an entrepreneur can probably agree, that that's also the journey of an entrepreneur. And so the book is told through that lens. And so it is really an inspiration to people following their mission and bringing to life something that didn't exist before, which is their business. And so, having these inner tools of personal growth that will lead to their professional success.
So what happened when the pandemic hit? What were you doing and how long did it take for you to pivot and say, I'm going to do something with this and start writing?
Well, the book only came to life about a year ago, so that wasn't really pandemic inspired, but at the beginning of the pandemic, right before everything started, as many people, can probably relate to, I was in the midst of finalizing details for some really major projects and contracts with the hospital. So bringing workplace wellness into the hospital for their team members, as well as the county of Maui. And so 2 major organizations that were, brought to a screeching halt because of the necessity of everything that was happening. So as such, they needed to reallocate their resources, for public health and safety, et cetera, et cetera. So those contracts stopped. And so many things other than that did too. And so it was interesting because it was really only a few days. And I think that is a testament to my own entrepreneurial resiliency and spirit, is that of course, I was in that moment of, oh my goodness, what is happening? You know, what's happening in the world? What's happening with people? All of that, just kind of confusion that we found ourselves in. And I was out here, just out on the patio, just kind of relaxing and doing my yoga, and realized, okay, you know, if all of that stuff where I would have normally done in person and gone out and all of that, the way that I would support my community, I'm not able to do that right now. Well, what is some way else that I can do that? And it occurred to me that I had this beautiful program that was waiting to be brought to life, that was in my head, that I had worked on, called Wake the Warrior Within. And so using the tools of the yoga practice to help people stay strong, boost their immune system, to stay sane, to give them something to do, you know, give them something to focus on, to work on, to use. And so I figured, okay, this is a really good time to bring this to life. And so that's when the yoga series was born, if you will. And so that was my big initial pivot. And so that was 2020. And then 2022 was when I heard the book coach speak, and he suggested, you know, why not write a book? Because it can be such a great way for you to impact people and share the tools. And so that's the sequence of events.
So then when you're writing the book, was this on bar napkins? Was this in a notebook? Was this in a legal pad of paper? Was this a chisel and stone, or a computer or your phone? What were you doing to write? What were you using? What was your tool or tools?
I used Google Doc.
Was it on your phone or on your computer?
On my computer.
So you would sit down, have a dedicated space, and say, I'm going to start writing my book right now. I'm going to be writing my book, and this is what I'm doing.
I have a standing desk, but yeah, I would kind of, I don't like sitting about, it just doesn't feel good in my body. I do it to hold still, because otherwise I'm kind of all over the place. But yeah, it was, you know, I got all gung-ho about it initially. I'm writing a book, you know, and I had this goal of a chapter a week, and then that started dragging and dragging and dragging, and then forgot, you know, and then it sort of, I wanted to finish it by January 1st of 2023, but that didn't happen. And then, so once that came back around, I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to finish it by the 1-year anniversary. And so it is challenging, you know, because life gets in the way. And especially when you have other aspects of your business that you're running, it can get backburnered. And so, yeah, it was one of those things, and to commit to be able to finish, that's, so many people want to write a book, but whether you finish it or not is another story.
Right. And so then where are you with ChatGPT and AI assisted writing?
I like it, you know, and that's what a few people said to me. Well, why don't you put your book in there and see what ChatGPT said? And I said, no, this is my book. This is my story. And this is what I want to share with the world. And I appreciate ChatGPT. I use it, but this is mine. I'm not letting it change it. And I believe that, you know, the AI assisted writing is very helpful, and it's an incredible tool, but there's never going to be that personality, the depth that comes from a human soul. And that's where I draw the line. And for me, that's what the book is a way for me to share my soul and my heart and the tools that I've learned from my own truth with the world in a way that I know will be very impactful. And so I know that, you know, many people use it for that, but for me, no, it was a hard no.
Have you got to use it for social media? Because you sounded like you weren't too into the social media aspect when you said social media earlier. I don't know if maybe I read into that incorrectly, but I saw in your face it didn't seem like you were super into it. So I'm not super into social media, and if I have something else that can do it for me, I'm all for that. So I can focus on doing whatever else I need to be doing.
Totally. It's just a lot, you know, and so ChatGPT is helpful for being able to bust out some posts and get some inspiration.
Not a sponsor, which I'm going to actually, after this podcast is over, going to reach out to. If you have any YouTube videos that you've made or things you're on, after this, I'll send you the video if you want to upload this on YouTube, because I can't for a week. But there is a website, opus.pro, opus.pro. And you can go and take a YouTube clip up to 2 hours, or YouTube video up to 2 hours. And within 10 minutes to maybe an hour, if it's really busy, we'll spit out 10 to 15 different video clips between maybe 30 seconds to 2 minutes each, with some thing that they think is important, or they figure it out, and then it comes, it's set up like the YouTube shorts, or with the having a vertical and having the words all go across the screen and all that stuff. And it's free, and so it's a good way if you need some content to do that. And you can do whatever you want with this podcast. So you can even download it and put it as a private video on yours, and then just pop it through there, and it'll works with private videos as well. So if
Cool.
that's something that may be able to help lessen your social media worries, I hope that can do it. And then one last thing. So Chino, how do you know Chino? How does that come about? Chino was a cool guy, and I was upset. I somehow, when I went over there, I think maybe I hadn't gone over there yet. I think it was like right after I went, and I was going to go again. And I don't think I ever made it back over there when he was, after I met him. But so how do you know Chino? How's that come about?
He's from Maui, so he actually dates a good friend of mine. So I
Oh,
met him through Trish the Dish, his partner.
okay. All right. Mallrats reference right there. Trish the Dish. There's a character in there. And they call her Trish the Dish. But then they
Okay.
say, nope, nobody calls her that. But they do. So anyway, but that's kind of irrelevant. But so you have your book, and that's coming out sometime in the future on Amazon, sometime in the
Yes.
near future.
Sometime.
Be prepared for it. And so where are people going to find you if they want to yoga it up with you, or get ready for your book, or anything else that they need to know from you?
For sure. So on Instagram, my handle is at I am Megan Nolan, and then my website is megan-nolan.com. So you can come and check that out. There's lots of great resources on there. And then, of course, in there, there'll be lots of updates in the blog section. And when the time is right, you can go to thewarriorsjourneybook.com. You can actually go there right now and opt in for the updates. So the dates on there are tentative based on the magic that's happening in the Amazon ethers. So yes, those are some great places to get connected.
Sure. And I'll put those in the show notes and get those so everyone can see them and get a hold of you, because they should get a hold of you. And so, Megan, it was great talking with you. I'm happy we got to meet and get to talk for a little bit. And I hope it's still early in the day. Hope you can get out and go and enjoy that rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Great chatting with you too.
Yeah. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you. All right. That's Megan Nolan. This is a short episode today. I got one more later on with Stefan Braxton, who I was on his show last week. So he is going to be on my show this week, today. So there'll be show number 3. They're probably done maybe up at like by 8:00 p.m. Eastern time, maybe be up around then. So thank you guys so much for listening on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, brought to you by Stoner Eats Productions, suckemup.org, Hypnosis is Great, Hardcore Comedy, and Fred Ben Savage as Fuck. And that's a thank you, Disney, for sending us the cease and desist letter, taking our idea and making your Boy Meets World podcast. I can see it did well. Probably because it's a good idea. Anyway, you guys, that is the show, man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Ernest! Ernest! Ernest!
Yes, Pee-wee.
You brought the snacks, right?